delighted to be joined now on Sport for Business by Olympian and Olympic Federation of Ireland Athletes Commission Chair Shane O'Connor, as well as Irish sprinter Leon Reid, fresh from success in Abbottstown over the weekend and looking forward to competing in Madrid and at the European Championships in the next couple of days. We're going to talk about the launch of a new Olympic Federation of Ireland campaign. Don't Scroll By is the name of it. And it's an initiative which has come about following consultation with athletes and looking at the way that we can really push towards adopting a zero tolerance approach of online abuse, discrimination, online bullying, hate speech, all of the really negative sides that we see from social media. So thanks very much to both of you for joining us. Resplendent in your Team Ireland gear, I see. The stories that we see of abuse and online harassment and everything like that can sometimes be overwhelming, but perhaps sometimes they can be too big and we actually move along because we don't know anybody who might have actually been subject to them. But oftentimes the most powerful stories are those that come directly from those who've actually been on the receiving end. So Leon, if we can start with you, if you could just talk us through a little bit about some of the abuse that you've experienced or that you've seen and heard from your fellow athletes within the world of sport in that online environment.
Yeah, of course. Well, sometimes it's not even just online. Sometimes it can be even in person. So like yesterday at the hotel, I was speaking to an American girl and she was like, "Where are you from?" I was like, "Ireland." She goes, "But you're black." I was like, "Yeah." And that's just in person. So online it's more like, I know that I've never lived in Ireland, but my mum was born in Ireland. My whole family's from Ireland. There's hundreds of us. So when people are going, "Oh, you can't be Irish, you don't have an accent," I'm just like, I'm as much Irish as you or me. So it's quite damaging when people are just like, "Well, you're not Irish, you don't have an accent." Like that's going to make any sort of difference to my performance or how I represent the country. It's little things like that. They'd nick at you. And then if I wasn't in the position where I am now, if I was a younger athlete, like it did used to affect me a lot more when I just switched over from running from Great Britain to Ireland. They'd be like, "Oh, he's going for the easy way out. He's doing it for this, he's doing it for that." But it wasn't just like a decision where I just wanted to leave GB. It was more, there were stepping stones. I had to talk to my family, talk to my coach, talk to everyone at home. It was more of like a group decision. It wasn't just me going, "Oh, I don't want to do it anymore, I'm just going to run for Ireland." It was more of a collective approach.
Yeah, it's painful to hear it firsthand, but the fact that that question of where are you from, no, where are you really from, is something that we don't have to experience just because of the color of our skin, which is quite ridiculous.
Yeah.
We spoke with Nadia Power a couple of months back as well on the same subject, and she found that was the most difficult, that you just had to kind of justify yourself purely because of something that that really we should have moved on from now. In terms of that, when you get that kind of abuse in an online environment though, are you inclined to push it to one side and just not let it get inside your head? Or as part of this new zero tolerance, is this something that you kind of feel that, well, maybe we should actually be pushing back on it?
Yeah, definitely. Usually I would just more block the person or go click on their profile and see who they are. And then you realize it's just like an empty account with no followers, no pictures. It could be someone sat next to me. You just don't know. So for now, I used to just block them, but now it's more of like a report, try to get these accounts shut down. But I could make one right now in 10 seconds, like a new account, and I could be sending you hate just as easy it is to send a text. So it really needs to be stepped on.
Yeah, and part of that has got to come from us as well as the social media companies, who obviously have a role to play, but we as individuals and as organizations. And Shane, looking at it from the Athletes Commission perspective, you've spoken to a number of athletes. You've gained their perspective on this in terms of what it's like and what we can do to actually step down in it. What can we do?
So I think it's a society issue. I mean, I think athletes are front and center to a large degree. Like they're the guys everybody sees, right? So everybody's looking at athletes in social media And I think there is a sinister element to some of the abuse, you know. So I mean, if I give you an example, we have a snowboarder who's represented Ireland in 2 Olympics, and he's hopefully going to represent in Beijing, who is US born, with Irish parents. And when he chose to compete for Ireland, he was 14. So he gets a little bit of stick for that still. But because he, I guess, is white, he doesn't get it as significantly or as bad as a colored athlete. So I kind of think that it's a society issue. It's racism, right? There's no other way of describing it. It's nasty, and I think athletes are picked on because they're easy targets. And I don't think it's because necessarily somebody's from a different country or they happen to represent Ireland, but they live in the UK or they live in America or wherever, and they have Irish roots. I think it's because of their ethnicity, and I think that's what makes it sinister for me. And to answer the question, I guess, of what can we do? We're pushing this campaign where so the Team Ireland, the Athlete Commission, partnership with Indeed, and also with INAR, which is the Irish Network Against Racism. So we're partnering up with them, and we have the campaign is Don't Scroll By. The key message for us is we want to get across the hashtag of delete, ban, report. So we want everybody to action, I guess, to take some sort of action. So you see it online, don't ignore it. If it's on your platform, delete it, ban the user. If you see it online and you're just a user of a platform, report it. I mean, it's funny, I've actually started to report a lot more of what I would see online. And sometimes the accounts actually do get closed down and shut down, which I think is very effective. So I think if collectively, if we all do it, we can make a huge difference, and it can make a huge difference, not just for athletes. And I mean, obviously we represent the athletes predominantly, but it can make a huge difference across the full spectrum of society in general.
I think one of the more depressing things about the maintained prevalence of this happening on social media is that there's kind of been there's a latent and perhaps an unintended racism in terms of some of those, you know, people who are older within society that just, you know, that never really got to grips with the idea of multicultural and difference. But social media is supposed to be about younger people, and it's supposed to be about, you know, fresh ways of communicating and opening things out, you know, both allowing a greater access to athletes, but also allowing athletes to actually work closely, you know, at building their own brand in there as well. So there's a kind of a younger demographic and a younger dynamic. Do you find it, Leon, that, you know, you kind of, if you get those kind of comments about where you're from, if it comes from somebody who was older, that you kind of, that it's perhaps less damaging in the sense that, well, okay, but, you know, things have moved on a little bit since you were in my position. But now you're getting it in social media coming through from people of your own generation. How hurtful is that?
Yeah, definitely. Especially like when when it is older people, you think like you're my mum and dad's age, and you're picking on a 26-year-old that's trying to represent the country at the Olympics. So I'm on your side, and you should be on my side, but you're not, just because of the color of my skin. It's very small-minded, and it just needs to stop, really.
Mm. Some of the like, leaving aside kind of the racism element of it, the abuse of athletes, perhaps more in team sports, but nonetheless in terms of performance, it's very easy for people sitting at home watching it on YouTube or just thinking of it to actually sort of make a critical comment, which mass media and mainstream media has, in a sense, been guilty of it. Thankfully, in Ireland, less so, but in the UK and the US, it can be pretty damning and pretty damaging, some of the commentary that comes through. Where's the line between what's considered, or what you would consider to be fair criticism of performance, and going over the top, and then almost normalizing it for ordinary citizens with extraordinary lack of concept as to where human beings are? Shane, what would you have a thought on that?
Yeah, so I think the media have a really key role to play here, and I think performance, it's fine to comment on performance, and I think athletes would accept that, because you've good days, you've bad days. You know, people have an interest. They want to know about the good days. They want to know about the bad days. I think the media, when they're reporting, need to be careful not to personalize like when there are bad days, that they don't personalize those bad days, like personalize it from the perspective of the athlete. I mean, no athlete goes out and wants to perform poorly. And you have to remember that when an athlete performs, doesn't have a good day at the office, so to speak, they're the ones that are going to hurt more than anyone else. Nobody is feeling it as bad as an athlete does when they come off the field of play, knowing that, it wasn't their day, or they didn't give everything they could give. So I think that that's something that we should all remember, and particularly in the media. I also think, though, that the media have a really key role in calling out bad behavior when they see it. So, I mean, like we're all seeing what's happening with James McLean at the moment. Like it's all over the media, and I think really there's an obligation on people, the media, and just everybody to call out that kind of behavior and to like Leon said it, to stamp it out essentially.
Because you'd hope that the vast majority of us, the 95% at least anyway, actually know and understand that doing the right thing is not that difficult, and the support that it can give to athletes makes a huge difference. It is really important in media. We're actually launching a campaign next week now with Munster Technological University in terms of working with Sport Against Racism Ireland as well, and just continually moving towards calling those out. But I still find it very depressing looking in the comment section of online media in particular, when you see some of the attitudes that are out there. But you're right, absolutely zero tolerance and do. So the don't scroll by is the campaign, and delete, ban, report is the hashtag that we should be getting used to. On a more positive note, Leon, you're part of a wave of exceptional performance that's being put up by Irish athletes.
I think mine's I'm on the lower spectrum. What they're doing, the girls in the 800 meters and the lads, and just they're absolutely smashing it. So I'm gonna let them take it away, I think. So I'm running well, but they're keeping me in the shadows at the moment.
Yeah, 4 Irish athletes to be ranked in the world top 20 in the women's 800 meters at the moment. But still, you're part of the team, and you won in Abbottstown. You're competing in Madrid this evening. That event, the World Tour Championship, is going to be broadcast on TG Caja, and then the European Championships in Poland on the weekend after next. So, what are your hopes for that? How are you feeling at the moment? Do you feel on fire when you're stepping out onto the track?
Yeah, I do, but I also feel a little bit nervous. Obviously, 60 meters is not my strongest event. It usually takes me 60 meters to get going in the 200 meters. So we really worked hard to try and bring down that 60-meter time. And then I know I can even go faster. I've looked at all the videos that I've done on the weekend. It's just getting those little bits and putting them together, and then I could go a lot quicker. And I rang one of my coaches on the way home, and he was like, "You should be running way, way quicker than this." I'm like, "Be proud of me," but we always want more. We're always pushing. So I've got a good chance to do it on Wednesday, but if not, I'm definitely going to be going for it at the Europeans.
Okay, and you are speaking to us now from your hotel room in Madrid, where you're in isolation in a sense until the event actually kicks off. So welcome back to Ireland, and then you'll be heading out to Poland in the middle of next week as well. So the best of luck with that. And Shane,
cheers.
More exceptional performance over the weekend within your own sport, with the performance of Cormac Comerford in the World Championships over in Cortina d'Ampezzo in Italy. How excited should we be about the Winter Olympics now?
Very excited, I think. So Cormac is actually, I have a bit of a personal connection, I guess, with Cormac, because I coached him on the dry slope when he was a kid. I mean, I'm super happy for him, because he went out at 15, 16 and decided this was what he was going to do. And he's spent years like doing things like sleeping in bus stops and, literally dragging his bags around Europe. So to get a 23rd in the World Championships from a non-snow, traditional snow nation is phenomenal. So, and I really, really would love to see him compete in Beijing. Incidentally, he is by far the best result of the World Championships by any Irish competitor, with the sole exception of Pauli Schwarzwacker-Joyce, who was our first competitor at the Olympics. So it was 98, I think he went, but he scored a 22nd in Alpine combined, which is a little bit easier to get a result in because it includes a speed event. So typically there's less competitors. So Cormac's result is phenomenal the weekend, phenomenal.
Okay. Pauli Schwarzwager-Joyce, he was probably asked the question of where are you from? No, where are you really from? back in the
Yeah.
day as well, albeit in these days it is with an undercurrent that nobody wants to see. So thanks very much, the two of you, for joining us today. Hashtag delete ban report, and the campaign is don't scroll by from Team Ireland. But for the moment anyway, Leon Reid and Shane O'Connor, thanks very much for your time.